Welcome to today's immigration webinar. My name is Stephen Hall and I will be discussing UK internships. Internships are a great way for students and recent graduates to gain some valuable work experience and also act as a helpful screening tool for employers who may be considering offering the intern a more permanent role. Immigration issues should be considered early in the process to ensure work permission can be obtained in good time. A very common question I am often asked is, does a non-EEA intern require a visa to complete an internship? In short, the answer is yes. A visa is required. In most cases, a Tier 5 visa will be the most appropriate. We often hear from potential interns and employers who have not considered a visa issue until the last moment, meaning internships start dates are delayed and the time the intern can spend at the company is shortened. We will consider some of the most common pitfalls and the most appropriate visa categories for paid and unpaid internships. A lot of companies have a structured internship or vacation scheme with set processes in place. However, the nature of internships can be rather informal, and often it can be referrals, word of mouth, or family relations that recommend the intern. It is important, therefore, to ask some probing questions, as the following will dictate the type of visa that is most suitable. Nationality of the intern, the age of the intern, is the internship paid or unpaid, the structure of the internship, will there be a training plan, on-the-job training, will it be client-facing? The length of the internship is also important. Normally the internships must be less than 12 months. And finally, the qualifications held by the intern, whether this is a degree that they've previously studied or a degree that they're studying towards. Once we've established the intern is not British or European, we must consider the most appropriate visa category. The visitor category. This is the first category we will discuss, mainly to dismiss it. Those entering the UK as visitors are not allowed to undertake work of any kind, including job shadowing, and yes, unpaid internships is still considered to be work. The intern must therefore obtain appropriate work permission before they start their internship. If the Home Office finds a visitor visa holder completing an internship in your office, you could be subject to a civil penalty of up to £20,000 per legal worker. We therefore move on to Tier 5. You will hear a lot of people suggesting that interns should apply under Tier 5. This is correct. However, it is important to note that Tier 5 has various subcategories. For interns, we are concerned with Tier 5 Government Authorised Exchanged, known as Tier 5 GAE. This category is for those coming to the United Kingdom to share knowledge, experience and best practice through work placements while experiencing the wider social and cultural setting of the United Kingdom. The title of this visa category is a little confusing, as in practice the visa is not sponsored or endorsed by the UK government. Instead, what happens is there is an overarching body that issues the intern with a certificate of sponsorship. There is a list of overarching bodies that can assist, and we will discuss this in more detail later in the webinar. We should also look at Tier 2 General. This is the main route UK companies use to bring skilled labour to the UK. However, the category is for long-term assignments and ultimately leads to settlement in the UK. Under this route, the company must advertise the role for 28 days to the resident labour market, and only if they can justify that they cannot find a suitable settled worker, UK or European national, would they be able to offer the role to the intern. For this reason, the visa process can take 2 to 3 months and is almost always not appropriate for an intern. Lastly, it is useful to look at Tier 5 Youth Mobility Visa. It is worth checking the nationality of potential interns, as there is a visa scheme for Canadian, Australian, New Zealand, Taiwanese, Japanese, Korean and Hong Kong nationals aged between 18 and 30 who wish to come and live and work in the UK for up to 2 years. Again, this visa is self-sponsored, so there's no reason to have a certificate of sponsorship, and the Tier 5 Youth Mobility Visa is something to consider. Another popular question I often get asked is, we don't have a sponsor license. Can we offer an internship to a non-EEA intern without a sponsor license? The answer is yes. Under Tier 5, an overarching sponsor assesses the internship on offer and, if suitable, assigns a certificate of sponsorship to the intern. The certificate of sponsorship is used by the intern in their subsequent visa application as evidence of their work offer in the UK. Together with a certificate of sponsorship, the intern may be required to submit evidence that they have sufficient funds to support themselves while in the UK. That said, if you do hold a Tier 2 sponsor license, this is a bonus. Although you must still obtain a certificate of sponsorship from an overarching sponsor, the process may be more straightforward as you have already demonstrated that you are compliant with Home Office requirements. The Tier 5 Government Authorised Exchange, GAE. As the potential employer, you will need to register with the overarching sponsor who will assess the internship on offer. You will be expected to provide a detailed training plan and confirm the intern's role is supernumerary and not filling a vacancy. The individual will need to provide evidence of their studies to the overarching sponsor. It usually takes a few weeks to prepare the documents for submission. The overarching sponsor should then assess the internship within a few weeks and assign the certificate of sponsorship to the intern. Depending on where the intern is making their visa application, this stage of the process can take a further 5 to 15 working days. We strongly recommend, therefore, starting the process at least 2 months before the internship start date, if possible. The most relevant overarching bodies are listed below. It's best to go to their own websites for full terms and conditions, but I'll just outline a few of the most popular. ASAC, otherwise known as Access Tier 5, is very useful because they provide 12-month sponsorship initially. However, it is possible to get a further 12 months in some cases. GTI, often known as GTI Recruiting, they usually require a meeting with the employer before signing the certificate of sponsorship, but again, the process is similar to ASAC. BUNAC can be very useful because BUNAC will sponsor unpaid internships. The basis of the unpaid internship is that it must be voluntary, and also the maintenance that the individual will have to provide is significantly higher. So BUNAC usually asks for evidence that the individual has $2,500 in their bank account before the internship commences. BUNAC also requires a reference letter from a professor where the individual is studying abroad, and usually BUNAC will provide a 6-month visa. The Law Society is also popular for the legal industry, as interns are very popular for individuals coming to study law. Potential trainees, paralegals, research interns who are studying a law degree abroad, this overarching body is very useful for them. A question that is also asked is, the potential intern is currently in the UK with a Tier 4 student visa. Can a Tier 4 student complete an internship with us? Most Tier 4 students are able to work part-time during their studies and full-time during holidays and on completion of their course. So as long as the role they work in is not a permanent one, it is usually possible, therefore, to complete an internship as a Tier 4 student. However, please note, the student will only be able to work until the expiry date of their Tier 4 student visa and will experience difficulties returning to the UK if they travel overseas and then return before the internship takes place. If the internship on offer is for a longer period than covered by the Tier 4 student visa, it will be necessary to obtain further permission for the remainder of the period. Again, this will probably be under Tier 5 GAE. At the end of an internship, we often get asked the question, as the intern did a good job, can we offer the intern a permanent role? If you want to keep the intern on in a permanent role after the expiry of their Tier 5 permission, it is likely you'll need to sponsor them under Tier 2 General. As a company, you must have a Tier 2 sponsor license. It is likely the role on offer will need to be advertised as part of a genuine recruitment process. If no suitable EU UK permanent resident can be found, you'll need to obtain what's called a restricted certificate of sponsorship from the annual limit of 20,700 through a monthly request process. If you are successful with the restricted certificate of sponsorship request, the applicant will need to return to their home country to make their Tier 2 application. We would therefore recommend starting this process 3 months before the end of the Tier 5 visa, if possible, to ensure the applicant is overseas for the shortest period possible. In conclusion, the immigration issues should be considered early in the process to ensure work permission can be obtained in good time. Those entering the UK as visitors are not allowed to undertake work of any kind. Please note job shadowing and unpaid internships is still considered to be work, and you must be careful around these two issues. Tier 5 GAE, Government Authorised Exchange, in the majority of cases will be the most appropriate visa category for an internship. If you want to keep the intern on in a permanent role after the expiry of the Tier 5 permission, it is likely that you'll need to sponsor them under Tier 2 General. If you do not have a Tier 2 sponsor license in place, you will firstly need to apply for this. We would recommend starting the process 3 months before the end of the Tier 5 visa, if possible. And this concludes the webinar. If you have any questions, please let us know. Thank you.